This is the HS420 by Holystone. It's a mini drone, and if you've been following my channel for the last couple of months, you'll know I absolutely love drones. From the rather elegant DJI Mini 2 all the way to the fast, fun but rather hard to control beta FPV status. So when Holystone reached out, they're a pretty reputable brand in the drone space, and they said to me, do you want to try out our latest mini drone? You know I just could not resist. So today we're going to be reviewing the HS420 by Holystone. Let's go. The outer packaging for this drone is actually really nice, and the size of the packaging just shows off how mini this drone actually is. On the side we do get a little bit of information about some of those drone's features. For example, the 720p camera, 2.5 GHz Wi-Fi connection, and even the flips and variable speeds. Let's stop looking at the box though and find out exactly what we get on the inside. We of course do get the drone itself, 3 batteries, which they say will do up to 6 minutes of battery life each, the controller, and of course a ton of accessories and some booklets. There's a lot of accessories here, including screwdrivers and ways to replace both the propellers and the brushed motors. This is really important because 1, brushed motors don't last particularly long, and 2, propellers, they break fairly easily, so having some replacements here is really nice to see. Before we do look at the drone itself though, let's look at the controller. It's an okay design. It is rather boxy, so it becomes a little bit uncomfortable to hold over long periods of time. But with that 6-minute battery life, this really shouldn't be too much of an issue. On the front, we do have 2 sticks controlling the movement of the drone, a button to take pictures and videos, an auto rotate or circle mode, 1 button takeoff and landing, headless mode and trimming, as well as that power and speed switch. There is a place to hold your phone here as well. And though it does hold my iPhone 11 Pro, it really didn't hold it very securely. It actually overbalanced the controller quite heavily, making it rather tiring to hold at best, and at worst, this thing crushes your thumbs because it just closes in on them. So not particularly well designed, and I don't recommend you actually hold your phone in the stand. But it is a possibility, and we'll talk a little bit more about why you might want to do that and some of the app's features a little bit later on in this review. Before we carry on with today's review though, if this is the first time that you're seeing my face on your screen, then 1, lucky you, and 2, go down there, hit that subscribe button, smash that bell notification icon so you get notified every time I upload. We are getting incredibly close to 2,000 subscribers. I'd like to thank each and every one of you for being here and watching my content. If you aren't subscribed, if you aren't commenting, liking and all of that jazz, please do, it means the absolute world to me. Without further ado, let's continue with this review. Another thing I don't particularly like about this controller is it takes 3 AAA batteries. There is no rechargeable battery option here, and that's a shame because I feel like this controller is going to chew through batteries like nobody's business. Okay, I've kept you waiting long enough. Let's take a look at the actual drone. This thing looks really cool and is, as noted, very small as well. It does only come in this black and red combo, but it's a really nice look. It gives it this kind of speedy, fun vibe that children will absolutely love, but also makes it fairly easy to see while flying. It's this nice bright colour that's going to pop against the walls and whatever environment you appear to be flying this in. This is actually smaller than many tiny Whoop drones as well. It's actually smaller than the FPV status that I have as well, but this really isn't a bad thing. It's particularly built for indoor flying. I don't recommend taking this thing outside because the wind will take it almost instantly. All the propellers are protected by this nice guard here, so it does mean if it's going to fly into any objects or people, it's not going to hurt them and bounce directly off of them. What's really nice as well is if this does hit something and it bounces off, it appears to recover incredibly well. I'll show you some footage of that here. So this is a really nice beginner drone because no matter how hard you hit it, it's just going to get back up and keep flying. On the front we do see that tiny 720p camera that we can actually tilt to look straight forwards or even 90 degrees down or anywhere in between. This isn't an electrical one, so you can't change it within the app. You have to set it to one position before you fly. It's really not a big deal, and to be honest with you, I very rarely found myself using the camera feature of this drone. I was just having too much fun flying it around my room. On the bottom of the drone is where the batteries connect, and I'm going to be honest with you, I found this incredibly fiddly at first. The batteries kind of have to sit in and then be pushed backwards, and they really do need a good push. At first it will feel like you're going to break either the drone or the battery, but that isn't the case. They're just a little bit stiff. Over time they are a little bit easier to get in and out, but just give it a good push and it should connect quite easily. You also get two LEDs, one for the power button on the back which will flash red, and the one on the front which will flash white. This is so that you can understand exactly what way is forwards for this drone. This doesn't matter so much due to that headless mode that we were talking about earlier, which I'll touch on in a minute. But it's still really nice to see. These are also LED indicator lights, so they'll flash when you need to connect up the controller, or be steady when it's in flight, or when battery is low it will flash at you again. It's a nice little indicator to know exactly what's going on with the drone. Just on looks alone I highly recommend it, but let's talk about actually flying this thing, considering this is a drone. Due to the size of the drone, it actually leads to a really fun experience. It's pretty fast as well for its size. You can whip it around a room and it's got this nice little turning circle. The drone's controls always felt responsive and snappy. I never felt like I didn't have control of this drone. I did at times find the left stick to be a little oversensitive, particularly when flying up or down, and it did take a little while to get used to, but once I'd done so, I really did find myself trying different tricks and to get through different gaps with this drone, and that is half the fun of it. This thing is so small that you can set up little obstacle courses for it. The drone has a lot of features built in to help you keep flying. For example, it has altitude hold. Once you let go of that stick, it will hover in space. It might begin to drift over time into one direction or the other, but this is where trimming is going to come in. On the top left of the remote, you can hold down that button and simply flick the left stick in the direction opposite of that it is drifting. For example, if it's drifting backwards, hold down that button, flick forwards, and it will start to work itself out, and it will altitude hold actually incredibly well. Being a toy drone, it also has a lot of toy-like features. For example, being able to flip. Clicking in that right stick and pushing it in a direction will flip the drone in that direction. And it actually recovers very well from this. It never felt like I lost control either during, before, or after that flip. There's also a mode which makes it spin in round and round in circles. It will only spin in one direction, and it's fun for a couple of minutes, but I really did enjoy flying this thing more myself, trying to get it through all of those small gaps. One very interesting feature that I think makes this perfect for children and beginners is the headless mode. Basically, the way you've got to think of it is a drone knows which way is forward based upon where it's facing. If I were to push forwards on the right stick, it would fly in that direction. Headless mode basically means it will work out where you are in relation to the drone and fly forwards from that way. For example, if the drone is facing to the right here and I push forwards on the stick, in headless mode it will start to fly that way. It's really clever stuff and a little bit disorienting. I'm very much used to flying in a normal mode rather than headless, but I can see why this would be useful for beginners and children just starting to learn a drone. I do highly recommend disabling it after a certain amount of time though, and letting them get used to the controls and understand just how drones do fly, especially if you want to move up to something a little bit bigger like maybe the DJI Tello. As mentioned earlier, each battery lasts about 6 minutes of flight time and they take about half an hour to charge. This feels perfectly fine to me. For children it might feel like a little bit of a long time to wait for the actual flight time, but you can get some really good fun out of those 6 minutes, so I don't see it as a problem myself. The drone can also be connected up to the rather misleadingly named Holystone FPV app. This is not an FPV drone. There is nothing about this that is FPV outside of being able to look through the lens of the drone itself. Once connected to the Wi-Fi network, you are presented with the view that the drone sees. This is normally in a straight video feed. Up in the top right corner you do have the VR mode, which will split the view up into 2 separate lenses, and you can put this in a phone compatible VR headset. The experience really is not that great though. It's actually incredibly slow and the feed is a couple of milliseconds behind, so you're probably going to hit something and then realise that you've hit it a couple of milliseconds later. It's really not a good experience, and I don't recommend flying FPV with this drone. You can take videos and photos with this drone, and they look acceptable. I really was not expecting anything amazing from this drone, particularly with that very small 720p sensor, but the pictures came out just fine. Especially for children, I think they'd be more than happy with these pictures and videos. There is a way to actually control the drone through the app with the two sticks that are on screen. This really, again, did not feel responsive to me. Because it's over that Wi-Fi connection, it was slow and actually made it more difficult to fly than just using the normal controller. So again, I don't recommend flying with the on-screen controls. Really, you would only want this to be able to see what the drone is seeing and maybe take some videos and photos. Trajectory flying was something that it promised to be able to do, and I found pretty entertaining. Basically, what you could do is you could set a route for the drone to move, and it would move it all by itself. So you wouldn't have to touch controls, it would just fly from point A to point B to point C to point D, and so on and so forth. Really cool for creating fun little videos, or maybe even some fun little courses. But I did find that the joy of this did wear off fairly quickly, and I came back to just flying it like a normal drone. It is great for children or people who are just starting in the drone space. It's very user-friendly, a lot of fun as well, and does have some of those more advanced features that you would expect to see in the likes of the DJI Mini or the Mini 2. Do not expect an FPV experience or for this to be a very good camera drone. This really is not built for that. If you're looking for an FPV drone, then do check out my unboxing video of the beta FPV status. That'll be up there or in the description down below. If you're looking for a camera drone, I of course recommend the DJI Mini 2, and some of my videos of that will also be there or there if you want to take a look at them. So there we have it, guys. That has been my review of the Holystone HS420 Mini drone. One of the most entertaining and surprising drones I've actually flown in a while. I haven't actually smiled and laughed while flying a drone more than I have with this one. There's just something about its control scheme that really made me enjoy it. Not in the same way that I enjoy flying a Mini 2 or the Beta FPV. Those are much more enthusiast level, but for fun, this is great fun. Anyway guys, my name's been Robert, this has been Review Clue, and if you enjoyed this video, do get subscribed down there and comment what you thought about this drone, and I will catch you in the next one. Adios.